Hello, and welcome to another episode of Carolyn Talks Television. I'm Carolyn Topol, and this is my fabulously heart-laden co-host, Rachel Arnett.
Hi, everyone.
Today, before we start our special show on comedies, no laugh track, I promise, I wanted to just do a momentary recap. Our last show, we gave predictions about the Golden Globes, you remember?
We did, and we did pretty well.
I went back. I watched the whole show. Yes, I did. I promise. And then I went back and I checked our predictions. We got over 50% accuracy on the Golden Globes. And considering the fact, for you and I, we didn't get the reels.
Yeah, no. I didn't get the reel. I don't know about you.
No. Those
I've been a
producers
member
were
of the
not
Foreign
sending me.
Press Association for years, so.
We did pretty darn well. I
Yeah.
thought we did really well, which means we know how to judge what we're watching, I hope. Because today we are going to talk comedy.
My favorite genre. I love everything. I'll be honest, I'll watch pretty much anything on TV, but you really can rope me in pretty quickly if it's a good comedy.
If it's a good comedy, and I have to say, I'm a girl with a happy ending complex. Mm-hmm. If it's got a happy ending, I want to see it.
And really, that goes back to Shakespeare's definition of a comedy. All the terrible things in the world can happen. As long as it's a happy ending, it's a comedy.
That's right. And years ago, they used to be called situation comedies because they would have a situation, which means a little bit of drama, angst, whatever they wanted to call that. And then in 30 minutes, it would all be better, and everybody would smile and live happily ever after till the next episode.
When some kind of situation arose, and et cetera.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, today we're going to talk about comedies now, and some special comedies from decades back that I think really had an impact and still have an impact today. Those are the ones we talked about. So let's start, though, with a couple of really big hits that demonstrate today what we are seeing in 2019 in the world of comedy on network and on streaming.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to let you start because you gave me some really great ones.
What to start with? I think I'm going to have to start with a show that I just finished binge watching last week.
So this is a streaming
show.
This
is a streaming show. Well, it's funny. It's streaming right now on Netflix. Schitt's Creek is the name of the show. I want to clarify that it's spelled S-C-H-I-T-T, apostrophe S, but it certainly is a play on that phrase, up blank creek without a paddle.
Right.
And the premise of this show is that a very rich video store magnate, Johnny Rose, loses everything. And he, along with his wife, a former actress, current social person, it's really hard to define what she is, and his children have to move back to the town that he bought for his son as a joke, because it is the only asset that they have left. So they own this town, and they go back, and the whole first season is hilarious, and it really explores the fish out of water. You know, that typical trope of fish out of water, oh my gosh, all of these real people things we have to do, get jobs type of situations. But as it goes on, the characters you get so into these characters because there's such warmth and they're so funny in the way that they react to each other. And it just started the 5th season, and so I made sure I caught up. After I saw the first episode, I was done. Every time I'm on the treadmill or the bike, it was on my iPhone, and I was going.
There you go.
And I cannot stop. I find clips on YouTube now, and I watch them over and over again when I need to feel happy.
It's still as hilarious today as it was the first season, but in a different way because the characters are richer now.
Yeah, it was very much situational.
Right.
And then now it's so much about the characters themselves and the interactions. And the writing is brilliant, and it was created by Eugene Levy, who is brilliant and Second City fame. I'm sorry, not Second City. The Canadian.
Oh.
We can't remember right now. brilliant
Yes, yes.
improv and sketch comedian. A lot of people know him for American Pie in the United States.
There you go.
But he and his son created the show together,
Yes.
and they are on it together.
They're on the
and
show.
They're so with Catherine O'Hara, who can do no wrong for me ever since I saw her in Beetlejuice.
And what happens is these characters are now driving the story. It's no
100%.
longer plot driven, which, you know, in situation comedies, there has to be a situation.
Absolutely, yeah.
And to get you hooked, it's got to be a great situation, which the whole premise of the show is a great situation. But then when you learn to get to know them, and we got to know them, and now it's become the characters and their issues that drive the plot.
And what strikes me so much about all of these characters, when you first meet them, they're all kind of naive, or at least the children are like naive,
Yes.
very selfish, but in a way that they like find that fine line of amusing selfishness versus like, oh God, these awful people selfishness that some dramas take.
And you know, this reminds me, and I told you we'll go back and forth a little bit. This is one of the keys to ensemble.
Yes.
Ensemble comedy, when you fall in love with it, is because the ensemble, the people, the characters are so well developed, you know them.
I would watch these characters do anything. I would go to one of their barbecues and just sit there and watch and enjoy.
And if we think about ensemble, now I'm going to go back in time a little bit. But these are shows you could watch all over the place. They're syndicated, they're here, they're there. YouTube, you could visit all of them on YouTube. We have MASH, which still runs continually on a variety of cable channels.
Yeah. And I didn't ever see it in one piece. I always saw it kind of episode by episode, and I fell in love with that show.
Right. And it's so easy to fall in love. And these were characters that at first, this was a hard show to get to stick on the air. But back then, they were willing to give shows a second year. They were willing to give them the benefit of the doubt if the talent was good. And of course
boy,
it worked.
is the talent good.
Of course it worked. And, you know, this will go down in history as one of the single best sitcoms of all time is MASH. And MASH had an ensemble.
Yeah.
Not one character was related, but they were family and you knew it. Another one, well, I'm going to give you two more like that, specifically Cheers and the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Yes.
Both. Nobody's related. Nobody is related. However, nobody's related, but this is family. You know what family is when you watch this ensemble. And the more you get to know them, the more you're invested in each week's situation. Because it's driven by those characters who you almost feel like you know, like personally, even though they're make-believe.
Well, it gets to the point with a lot of these shows, with MASH, with Mary Tyler Moore, with Cheers, with Schitt's Creek, that you can almost predict how a character is going to respond and how that response will impact other people. Because somehow in 23 to 30 minutes, you're able to get a sense of who these people are. And I don't know what magic they work.
Right.
Maybe it's that these characters are just so
Yes,
specific and unique.
And magic is the word, yes.
But I feel like I know these people as if they are friends. I believe they exist in the world sometimes, and I have to remind myself, oh wait, that's a character.
Yeah, it's make-believe. People are so invested in it too that you see, to this day, people chat about who ended up with who, even on the sitcoms from the 70s.
Oh yes, and there's still very controversial opinions about which partnership should have stayed together. I can't believe she chose him. And it's just the way that it draws audiences in.
Yes, absolutely. Now, let's move on to one of my personal favorites. I am a totally addicted person to the Big Bang Theory.
You are.
I am totally addicted to the Big Bang Theory. Don't cure me. I don't want to get helped. I am so into it. I am so invested in it, and it's their last season.
Wow, I can't believe it's their last season.
It's their last season, but they have had a run better than anybody. But you got to admit, like, everybody's married. Even the most undateable characters on the show are dating. Wow, it's like scary to see these characters how much. And you know what? It's not. out of character.
They somehow
They've
were
made it
able
work.
to, yeah, they made it work and they developed the characters and they really have played the long game for a lot of these characters.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I thought originally when the characters of Penny and Leonard married, the show would be done. I really thought, oh, it's cooked, it's toast, they get married, it's the death knell for the show. And instead, they were able to lift this show to even greater heights. Even greater heights. Amy and Sheldon, they're married, and it's still fresh each week. You feel like something more is exciting and happening.
And stuff like that to me just seemed like, again, that when they sit in the writer's room, I imagine them sitting there with like this giant whiteboard of like what possible things these characters could be going through, being like, nope, sorry, we did that back in season 1. And it's now, what season is it now?
I believe it's 10 maybe?
Like, and they're
8.
writing.
If I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's around 10 at least. And
Right.
I just can't imagine the stamina that it takes to write something that people really continue watching.
And this, remember, is network TV, so you're not getting 8 episodes as a season.
Yeah.
You're getting probably in the neighborhood of 18 to 20 because there's now hiatuses. So, even a regular season is a little shorter than they used to be, but you're getting a really long season and a lot more development. And there's creativity. And I feel like when they do the ensemble scenes, especially, I'm invited to sit in the living room with them. I feel like I'm there. The girls go out, I'm there, I'm in the bar. I'm in the bar with the girls when they go out because they've invited you in, which is what's great about ensemble. And that goes back for me to Cheers. I felt invited into the bar.
And that really was a fairly large cast. There, of course, every ensemble show has its few like top billed stars.
Of course.
And same can be said for Schitt's Creek, for MASH, but even the ancillary characters, the secondary characters, or the ones that come back for one episode and you don't see them until 2 seasons later, they work with them and you feel like you know them and they contribute to the plot and to the development of the other characters in a really powerful way.
They do.
Which I think is very much like real life, and that's why it works. In improv, I've done improv for years, there's this truth in comedy is huge. And that's the reality of life, is people come in and come out. They make an impact, and then they leave, and then they come back, and you have to deal with it. And it just works, because that's the way life is.
And then to be able to laugh at it.
Yes, laugh at some
including when
tough
characters
situations.
leave. Now, of course, all these shows have had sad moments, and they've included the sad moments. And yet, when you incorporate those sad moments, they still were able to have laughs throughout the show. And I still remember probably one of the most controversial episodes in MASH was the end of the 3rd season when McLean Stevenson decided he was going to leave the show. He was offered another show, his biggest mistake probably, because he left one show and went to another show that did not have a successful run. But when he left, rather than having him, when he got his papers that he was able to go home, he was discharged. He died going home. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it's a few years past now. I feel like you can't, people don't get mad at you for that.
Right. But the one thing that moment did was it gave the show legs.
Yes.
Even stronger legs than it already had attained in those first 3 seasons. It really gave them legs because the explanation was that this is a show about war, even though it's funny. It's a comedy. There's no question MASH is a comedy. It was a comical book. It was a comical movie.
Yeah.
You laughed. But they said the one thing that they didn't want people to forget is people you love die in war. Not just strangers who come in and out for the one episode, but people you love die in war. And I had so much respect at that moment. And I was a kid when that show aired, that episode. I was a teenager.
Yeah, that had to
at
be
that
a
time.
powerful moment.
And I was like, wow, And having just gotten out of the Vietnam War, of course, this was the timing of all this. So it was really powerful, but yet nobody left the show, if anything, I think, in true more. Because honesty and comedy. I'd like you to do that show or that show next, because I'm happy that we're doing Network, because Network does have good sitcom.
I have to talk about Superstore. I can't not talk about Superstore. I talk about it all the time.
Okay.
Probably as much as I talk about Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Pose, and RuPaul's Drag Race in my life.
Okay.
Superstore is that show that is very Scrubs-like to me, where it will never get the recognition that it deserves for whatever reason. And it is just one of the funniest things I've ever seen on TV. Again, another huge ensemble cast that they develop these characters brilliantly. America Ferrera is brilliant in the show.
I think having America Ferrera as the star.
Yeah. And I totally didn't expect, when I saw, I was like, oh, America Ferrera is doing a television show?
Again.
But it at the moment I was like, oh, is that a backward step? Like I didn't quite understand it. The second I saw the show, I was like, oh, I understand it. If I was an actress, this would be the script.
Because it's so unusual. Tell everybody about it a little bit.
Yeah. So the show itself is essentially the life and times of Cloud9, a big box store similar to Walmart or Target, and the misadventures and adventures of those who are a part of it. And again, each character comes with their particular baggage. Ben Feldman plays a character, Jonah, who has dropped out of multiple schools and is just trying to figure out what his life is about. America Ferrera is Amy, although her name tag in every single episode reads something different, which is one of the inside jokes, because in the first, or I can't remember the first or second episode, she said she never wants a customer to know her real name. So every single episode, her name tag reads a different name.
Which is hysterical that they still carry that through.
And that's the kind of show it is. They have made references to things that they have not fully explained until 2 seasons later. And then there's this moment where you go back and you're like, oh my gosh, that was what they were talking about. And it's just perfect.
It's so relatable, because I think almost everybody at one time has had a job, even if you have a really, really high level professional career, that was a starting job. And you usually started in something like a store,
something
like
retail.
a superstore, retail, any of those things, and that's where you start.
Retail service industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
And some people became the managers and it became a profession, and others just became the clerk. You see, I mean, I go to my local grocery store, and I have complete respect for the people who are cashiers for life, because those are not easy jobs. And I look at these people and I see the funny side. Yeah. But once again, this ensemble is a family, a really odd family, but a family.
Very strange. The other thing that I like about the show is a lot of the actors and actresses on the show are also writers on the show. Lauren Ash, who plays Dina on the show, who's a real, I don't know what else to call her, but a real tough broad. You absolutely love her. She's just no nonsense kind of person. Has written quite a few of the shows, and they are of course, when the writers double as characters, I think there's even richer content because they know these characters so well. And
I agree.
They're acted brilliantly. Colton Dunn is on the show as a character who's in a wheelchair and really intentionally takes advantage of it, and it's part of his character that he makes people uncomfortable. And it's just it's like a nice little twist on someone who has a disability being in control of their journey. It's not the butt of the joke. He is taking control and making other people feel uncomfortable. And I just
I think he's
enjoy
hilarious.
Yeah.
It's also like the cliche of the older person who takes advantage, says, I'm old, take care of me, take care of me, take care of me. And then he sits back and he says, they're taking care of me.
Exactly. And I don't think I've seen an episode I didn't love. I will watch it all day, every day. It's a show I could watch 20 episodes in a row and not get bored of the characters.
And one of the things you said I think is really significant is when you have writers who are the characters, They really can, because even when you write a book, you need to be in your protagonist's head. The point of view, you need to be in that person's head to write a book.
And some of the best comedies I've ever seen had writers that doubled as actors. We look at The Office.
The reason Saturday Night Live sketches are always so good is because they write them.
Yep. They're writing for not only the characters, but they know their abilities. One of the actors who plays Mateo on the show was just nominated for an award as a supporting actor because he's so funny. And the show touches on very serious things all the time. Unplanned pregnancy, divorce, death, undocumented immigration, the corporate environment and how it negatively and positively impacts people.
And yet you laugh.
And you laugh the whole time. And I feel like I learn a lot about humanity from the show.
That's right.
Absolutely love it.
You know what? I'm going to flip backwards in time. Way backward. Yeah, good. Let's do a little bubble, right? I Love Lucy. Talk about writing people who play their characters.
I Love Lucy.
First of all, Desi Arnaz was a genius.
Absolutely. Musically, comedically,
and
intellectually.
Production-wise, he was a genius. He set up that whole Desi Lou.
Yeah.
And in terms of comic genius, Lucille Ball.
Is there anyone
better?
I don't know.
I think the closest second in my brain would be a different kind of comedy, which would be Carol Burnett.
Where just comedy flows out of their being.
Yes, and it's natural. It's a gift as opposed to a learned craft. Because most of these people we've talked about are, yes, gifted, but it's a learned craft. They developed it. Lucille Ball, I think it just emanates from her. It's like part of her skin, her DNA. But they also contributed to what their characters did. They drove the story through their characters and through their relationship personally, which became more flawed as sadly as the series went on. Their relationship was flawed from the get-go, is my understanding. Wasn't there? I've just read about it. Just from reading. But these were people who knew the characters inside and out and developed the stories as the characters would drive them. As corny as they were,
And they also, I mean, when I think back to I Love Lucy, I think back to the Red Scare and the fact that I remember at one point Desi Arnaz had to come out and say, "We are not communists."
That's right.
During the big Red Scare in Hollywood, where they were worried that everyone in Hollywood was a communist. He said, "The only thing red about her is her hair." And I still remember that. And this is a comedy, like I feel like comedies intersect with politics in life more than drama sometimes, because drama is so overdone sometimes in order for it to be effective, whereas the truth in comedy, you can look at it and say, okay, that's really life, and it's really funny.
Well, I think we've really touched on some of the best. The nicest thing about this is that all of the shows from the past you can see again, because thanks to things like YouTube, they're there. People post them. And because they're not on the air anymore, they're not usually taken down. So if you haven't seen those old shows, see them, watch them, enjoy them. The new shows, there's actually a lot more on network TV that's quality, because there's not a lot on network TV. So the sitcoms that are there and that have lasted more than a season.
They really weeded out some of the more tragic attempts.
So there are so many sitcoms out there that we cannot miss seeing them. Please don't. Please don't miss going to the network's TV. We're going to see Superstore, which we talked about, but I also really want you to check out The Good Place.
I love The Good Place. It is a forking great show.
It is.
It's a joke that you'll get if you watch the show.
And make sure you definitely watch it. It's worth it. And you know, a lot of the shows you can now get on demand and stream them back at their beginnings, even if they're network shows.
And a lot of them are on Netflix and Hulu too.
And I'm going to tell you one of my guilty pleasures, is Fuller House on Netflix. Yes, I am that geek that when my
okay with
daughter was a baby and a toddler and a little girl, we used to watch Full House.
Yep.
And the mom got addicted to the show. So when I heard they were making a continuation that took place in present time with the characters grown up and the next generation, I binge watch it on Netflix each time. And they are actually they're on season 4.
Wow. I watched all of the first season, and then I didn't hear when the second one came out, so I got lost. So I need to go back to it.
And I'm telling you, it's worth visiting things like that because if nothing else, and there's not as much of the political undertone in those shows.
Absolutely.
There wasn't when Full House was on originally either. It was meant to be fluff for kiddies. When you end a show from that, you sit down and you just feel good.
You have hope left.
You have hope left.
It renews your hope in humanity, I think.
And it's that fluffy moment that, people like to visit when they watch. When you go to a Disney movie, you don't go there for political undertones for Disney cartoons. And maybe there are some, but they're so hidden. I just want to smile. And that's what comedy's supposed to do. You're supposed to laugh, you're supposed to smile, you're supposed to get the silly inside jokes. And if you don't get them at the beginning, like in Superstore, you'll get them eventually.
But I think it's interesting in the way that comedy can do all of those different things.
And we see that over the years. We've seen shows like Benson that created black stars bigger than ever before. Facts of Life, Different Strokes, where a wealthy white man adopts the 2 black children. Yeah, nowadays you'd be like, what? So big deal. When the show first aired, huge deal, and it worked. So for Carolyn Talks Television, enjoy comedy, enjoy it for what it is. It's fun, it makes you think.
Yeah.
And you could smile at the end of it. So for Rachel and I, we'll see you next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. What'd she say?
Can you look at with the middle camera?
I want to say bye-bye.
Oh, okay. So for Carolyn Talks Television, Rachel and I will see you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye.